I'm so excited to be with you today. Girls State is my happiest place on earth, second to being with my kids, of course. Whew, that was a close one. Okay, how many of you have ever been to St. George? So I grew up in Orem, and then I went to school at Dixie College. And I worked in this building right here at Tenny Clemens Advertising. And it's right in Ancestor Square, right by Pizza Factory. And one day, I decided that I was going to rollerblade to work. I only lived about a half a mile away from work, though I'd never done it before. So I was smart, and I thought to myself, okay, well, when I get there, I'm going to need different shoes. So I put my backpack on. I borrowed my roommate's rollerblades. And let me back up for just a minute. Michelle McCullough is a sedentary lass. My idea of an Olympic sport is from the couch to the kitchen. So I don't know what impressed me that day to go on some sort of aerobic journey right before work, no less, in overalls. I really wish they'd come back, by the way. We'll save that for another day, too. So I decide I'm going to rollerblade. I've got my business shoes in the back in my backpack, and I set off. Now, I quickly realized that this is not going to work very well. My experience with rollerblades to this point were minimal, and I didn't know how to use those little stoppy things on the back. If there's an official term, I don't know, because I just roll onto the grass and call that braking. Okay, so this is fine, though. That's worked for me in the previous twice I'd ever rollerbladed, so I wasn't fearful. But one thing that I figured out really quickly on rollerblades that I didn't ever realize in a vehicle is that the back of Ancestor Square, as you come around the front, as I was approaching from the back, of course, is there's an ever so slight decline. Ever so slight, but enough. Now, just like aerobics was not my number one favorite subject, neither was physics, but I bet some of you smarty pants out there know exactly what started to happen. I'm in a business area now, so there's no grass. I still don't know how to use those little stoppy things on the back, even in emergency circumstances. And by the way, if at any point you feel like you need to laugh, instead of just give me an embarrassed look, that's okay. That's the whole point of telling you a story like this. I'm picking up speed, and I'm rounding the corner, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And all of a sudden, almost sent from heaven, I see one of these. Now, this is not the actual picture, but there is one of these. I think it's still there on Ancestor Square. It's historic now. And I think to myself, it's all right. I'm just going to tap up against that, and I'll stop, and everything will be lovely. Well, my tap was a slam, and I fell straight backwards onto my back, knocked the wind out of me and a whole bunch of my humility, and then I just laid there. Who just saw me? And I can barely breathe, but I decide that I'm going to be fine. I quickly take off the rollerblades. I'm close enough to work now. We can just walk the rest of the way. And I dust off my overalls. They were khaki, in case you were wondering. And I go and trot off into the office. Now, I don't know if these kinds of things happen to you, but they happen to me on a regular basis. My husband frequently calls me the girl that's a hazard to herself. And so I know that and consider that to be my main theme song, and I can sing it on any given occasion. But on this particular occasion, I got not only a little bit of an understanding of physics, I got a huge dose of reality. Now, in life, you're going to have some of these experiences, right? You're gaining speed, you're gaining momentum, life is working grandly, even if you don't realize that you're going a little too quickly. And then something that will happen will stop you. It'll knock you flat on your back, and then you have a choice to make. Are you going to stay there, or are you going to get up? And so today I'm going to give you some secret tips and principles, tips that if I had when I was your age, that I'd be even farther along than I am today. So if I could give you the blueprint for success today and help shorten that learning curve for you, would that be valuable? How many of you think that would be valuable? Okay, so I'm going to share with you 4 specific tips to help you on your roadmap. I want you to be able to create this roadmap for yourself. I believe that success is a destination, not a practice, is a practice, not a destination. Let me say that again. I believe that success is a practice, not a destination. Too often we look at our life and think, when I'm going to get into that school, or when I'm going to get into that college, or when I finally snag that hot boy, that my life will be complete. And we determine that success to be something out there in the future. But the reality is that whether you consider success to be lots of money in the bank, or I consider success to be happiness being a stay-at-home mom, it doesn't matter what that end result or destination is. What ultimately matters is what you're doing every single day to make that a reality. So here are the 4 things that you need, and this is your success map. We're gonna go into each one a little bit specifically, but I want you to remember these 4 things. Number 1 is accept. Number 2 is align. Number 3 is act. And number 4 is aware. So we'll go through each of these, and I know that you don't have access to your phones today, but we are going to play a little game afterwards, so because I know you can all take notes right now. If you want to Instagram something that you liked, a picture from Girls State, and tag me in it, or if you want to tweet something that you heard today that was beneficial to you, I'm going to give away 2 books, one off of Twitter and one off of Instagram. All you need to do is tag me at SpeakMichelle, and then also use the hashtag UTGirlsState, of course, and the hashtag MakeItHappenBook. And I'll go search for those tonight, and we'll announce them tomorrow morning for you to get that free book. So just take some notes on the things that mean the most to you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be something that I say, but it can be something that, because of what I said, makes you pick a specific course of action. How is it going to help you? How is it going to help you form your life and change your future? Okay? All right, number 1 is to accept. This is what I consider to be the number 1 success principles for peak performers. And whether you're just getting started or whether you consider yourself somebody who can already get things done, this is one of the most under-talked about success principles, but I think it's the most important. And it's all about responsibility. I remember being a teenager, and I remember life being kind of hard, and it wasn't that long ago for some of you who are like, oh, she doesn't remember that business. But I remember. And I remember there are lots of things going on in your life. And I also remember there are lots of different directions to be pulled. And I'm sure that there are even more directions now than there were back when I went to school. But I think that it can become really easy in that space to deflect responsibility instead of taking 100% ownership for your life. And it might look at something simple like, you know what, that teacher gave me a really bad grade. And you know in your heart it's because you didn't do as well on your tests as you should have. You didn't study hard enough, or you didn't turn in enough paperwork, or you missed an assignment. But it was easier to tell your friends or even your parents that was the teacher's fault. It might show up in the way that you work. Maybe something happened at work, an accident. You drop a Jamba Juice. You trip on something and you ruin it. Or, like me, you dump a whole tray of pies into the water at Maggleby's that cost about $56 retail. Now, for a kid like me, I was sweating in my boots. I happened to get sweat tacos, so if you see them a little bit later, you'll know that's normal. But at that point, I was sweating bullets. And I had 2 choices. No one saw me do it. I could walk away, or I could accept responsibility. I could make an excuse about it, or I could take 100% ownership for my life. And it was hard and difficult, and I cried doing it, which I don't necessarily recommend, but I'm also a weepy mess. So that was normal for me too. But she was very kind. And I think that if she had to go on a witch hunt to figure out who had done it, then ultimately I would have had to pay for them. But because I accepted 100% responsibility for that, she didn't make me pay for them, and I expected that she would because she had made other people pay for them before. So I want you to think about areas of your life. And right now in this instant, you might think to yourself, I've got this covered. I'm here at Girls State. I've got 100% of my life, and I'm responsible for it. But I want you to see how that comes up and shows up in your life. How your first response might be to make an excuse instead of to take ownership for what you have. So today we're going to say no to 3 things. Now I do want you to continue to just say no to drugs. So we're not pushing that aside, but let's add 3 other things on this list, okay? Just say no to blame. Just say no to excuses. And just say no to worry. And there are so many powerful principles just in these 3 statements, but I want you to let them sink in for you and figure out which areas of your life that you might be deflecting responsibility, where you're ultimately passing over the keys and being in the passenger seat to your own life. I hope that you'll take that ownership back and that you'll recognize the importance of that in your life. To finish off this principle, I want to share with you this practice, and I went forward too far. Have any of you ever heard the Cherokee legend with the grandpa and the 2 wolves? Okay, I'm going to share it for you for those of you that are new. A grandpa is sitting with his grandson, and he says, you know, within each of us there are 2 wolves. One wolf gives in to anger and worry and hate. One wolf gives into bitterness and regret and is always constantly jealous. The other wolf is about happiness and peace, love and kindness, positivity. And the grandson profoundly says, if they're fighting, which one will win? And the grandfather says, the one that you feed. Some of us might be involved in negative environments, whether it's at home, the places that we work, the friends that we hang out with, that might be rubbing off on you. But regardless of those circumstances, know that inside each of us, that struggle happens for me on a regular basis, where I get to choose ultimately which wolf will win. And so my invitation to you is to choose the one that breeds love and peace and kindness. And as you see that other wolf come up inside of you, that you figure out how to overcome it with those positive things. So on our first roadmap for success, our number one pit stop is this: I choose to own my life. Number one, most important, I hope that you'll make that choice today. Now, the next step on our roadmap for success is align. Align and chart your course. Now, if you're going on vacation, especially if you're going on a road trip, if you've never been there before, you probably need a map. Well, life is no different. You need a map to figure out where you're going to go in your life. And if you decide that you're just going to make it from one day to the next, and you're never going to decide what college to go to, you're never going to decide what to major in, then you'll constantly feel like you don't have direction. Let me also say this: it's not a race. For you, making lots of life-changing decisions in your life, and people pressuring you, where are you going to school? What do you want to be when you grow up? What's going to happen after college? It might feel overwhelming. My challenge to you is to make a decision. You can always change your course. And quite frankly, you probably will. When I went to college, I was going to be a kindergarten teacher. Now, I believe there's a special place in heaven for kindergarten teachers, because I'm convinced that now I would not be a very good one. But my course changed. But it wasn't until I made a decision and went down that direction that I knew that that wasn't the right choice for me. So regardless of what you want, what you think you want, make a decision and move forward. Indecision is a decision, but it doesn't lead you anywhere. So until you can make that decision to move forward, you'll constantly struggle or wonder if you're going the right direction. So make that choice. Align your path. We're going to play a little game, and I am going to ask Lily to be my little helper bee. We're going to test your success IQ. So who would like to play What is Your Success IQ? Okay, I'm going to go somebody right. No eye contact from the front rows. I got it. Okay, right here. Come stand up. Okay, tell us your name.
I'm Kim Zhang.
Kim, are you ready to play What is Your Success IQ? Yes, I'm really ready. Okay, question number 1 is, now here's how this works. I'm going to tell you something so you don't feel so much pressure and you don't get sweat tacos. Now, sweat tacos? Does anyone know what sweat tacos are? Okay, I would raise my hand and show you, but you know, it's kind of like a curve, but it's sweaty. Yeah, okay. Got it. Okay, we're connected. So if you get it right, you get to keep the prize. Okay. If you get it wrong, though, your friend next to you gets it. Okay. So no pressure, right? Sure. Okay. Now, question number 1 is, what percentage of Americans have written down their goals? Is it A, 56%, B, 37%, C, 21%, or D, 3%? Interesting choice. Do you want to think about that perhaps a little more? Maybe
we should go with B.
B? I can see why you'd pick B. Yep. Interesting.
I'm going to stick with B.
She's going to stick with B. Ladies and gentlemen, do you think it's B? Really? Okay. Well, you don't have to pull the audience. You can decide. You can stay with B or you can pick another one. I know. She's going to stay with B. Now listen. Okay. I like you for being strong and powerful in your decisions. Let's see what the answer is. The answer is D, 3%. Okay, now, because I put you on the spot, I'm still going to give you the prize. And I'm also going to give a prize to your friend. Okay. And because you asked me about sweat tacos, she gets a fan. And it's a patriotic fan. You're welcome. All right. So let's talk about this for just 1 second. What is so 3% of Americans write down their goals. 3%. Can you believe that? How many of you have a goal? Okay? Most of the room, most of us in our heads, we have a goal, right? But how often do we actually make that goal a reality by writing it down? And it's important for a really specific reason, because our brain thinks in pictures, and all of the characters of the alphabet make a picture that our brain recognizes. And so once we actually commit to something and write it down, our brain can go to work. Until then, your brain doesn't know if it's a wish, if it's a dream, or if it's that'd be really nice if it happened someday. Maybe. So write down your goals. I'm sure you can guess that the correlation between the people who write down their goals are more successful. Another study that was done by Brian Tracy, that they did a study of college students that were just graduating. 3% of people wrote down their goals, the jobs that they wanted, the income that they wanted, and in 10 years, those 3% were making 97% of the income and the success because they had actually written them down. So in a college situation where people are already driven, 97% didn't write down their goals, and they were totally trumped in success. So write your goals down. Let your brain know what isn't just a wish and what is really important to you. Okay, I'm feeling a vibe over here in Clyde, that one. Come on out. I'm gonna have you come into this. So just because I can't come all the way in there, see? There we go. Okay, next question. Number 2, what percentage of people are successful in reaching their New Year's resolutions? Is it A, 38%, B, 8%, C, 12%, or D, 45%?
B.
She thinks it's B. Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Let's see what the answer is. The answer is B, 8%. Congratulations. You get a book and a firecracker patriotic thing, because you answered that with a bang. I know, only one person laughed, sad. Okay, all right, we have one final question. I'm getting, okay, fine, we'll come all the way back here, right here. You were eager, you. Tell me your name.
Yvonne.
Oh, I didn't ask her name. What was your name? The winner from the last one? Mackenzie, wonderful. Okay, this is the last question. What percentage of Americans think visioning is crazy talk? Now, have we talked about visioning yet? So visioning is your vision of the future. It's you sitting down and thinking, what I want for my life is blank, creating that vision. So what percentage of Americans think visioning is a crazy talk? Is it A, 7%, B, 29%, C, 21%, or D, 85%?
Well, seeing as most Americans, when they hear the word vision, they all think about like crazy hallucinations when you're sleeping. And so most people immediately imagine crazy talk, so I'm going to have to go with A.
A. So you think 7% of Americans think visioning is crazy talk?
That's correct, but I would have actually expected it to be less. But seeing as it's got to be one of those 4, I'm going with A.
Okay. All right, let's see how this goes. Let's see how this pans out for you. All right, the answer is, I have absolutely no idea. I just made up that question. So you win. And you win that. And you win these because I'm visioning you wearing these, and it's hot. It is hot. So you take those. All right. So visioning. Oh, yes, they will. Oh, yes, they will. So let's talk about visioning for a minute. What's your vision? What do you want from your life? What do you want from your future? I love the little part in Alice in Wonderland where Alice goes to the Cheshire Cat and says, can you tell me which direction to go? You're done. Thank you very much. And the Cheshire Cat says, well, where would you like to go? And Alice says, I don't know. And the Cheshire Cat says, well, then it doesn't matter which direction you go. You'll have those points in your life where you don't know which direction to go, but you'll never be able to get some direction if you don't first make that decision. And we talked about it in the beginning, how sometimes it's really hard, especially where you are right now. Lots of questions. Do I take AP or not? Do I take concurrent enrollment or not? Do I go out with that boy? I kind of like him. Does that boy really like me? We've got all of these things swimming in our head, and we start to feel like we're worried about these questions. And that fork in the road makes us wonder, what kinds of decisions are going to affect me for the rest of our life? Are you making big decisions right now? Are you making big decisions? Are they stressful? Okay. So, like I said before, I'm going to invite you to consider to make a choice, to take that fork, to go down one road, and then ultimately decide if you want to go down another. There's a Chinese proverb that says, You can't go anywhere with one foot in two boats, right? But you can always change boats. So for you in your life, where you are, I want you to think about your future, think about what you envision for yourself, and ultimately decide how you're going to get there. How many of you have heard SMART goals before? Okay, I'm going to race through this really fast because we have other things we're going to talk about. But SMART goals are about not just writing something down like I'm going to get good grades, but being specific about them. Decide what your GPA is going to be. Goals need to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And so if you think about what GPA you want, for example, using that as a goal, you have to be specific about what grade that's going to be. How is that going to work for you? You've got to make sure that it's attainable for you. For some of you, and realistic. For some people who have a 2.0 GPA, it might be really difficult to get to a 4.0 in one semester. But if they can graduate through that, they could always get to a 4.0, right? It's just a matter of turning things in, studying, and being really diligent. But for some of you, maybe you just need a couple points bump. But figuring out what that is and if it's realistic for you, and then setting a time deadline. Is it next term? Is it the whole year that you're going to give yourself to get that 4.0? But think about it and make it timely. This framework was put together by a man named George Doran back in the 80s, and I like the framework, but I think George Doran is missing one thing. He's missing the why. And I'd love for you to switch in your head from SMART goals to SMART-E goals. I want you to root yourself in why that's important to you. If there's a specific college you want to go to, why is that college important? If there's a specific thing you want to accomplish in your life, why is that important to you? And this isn't me judging it, because I want you to go after your dreams. I want you to have big, hairy, audacious goals. I want you to challenge and push the system, but I just want you to be rooted in your why. Because those times will happen when you run flat into a telephone booth and get knocked back down, and you have to remember why you wanted it so that you're willing to get back up. That why is so important. So with all the questions in your head, this is how you can sift through it. And the rest stop here, the pit stop, is I choose to chart my course. I choose my future. I see too many young women your age, and I've been doing this for a really, really long time. And one of the greatest blessings I feel like I have in my life is being part of Girl State and watching you grow and change over the years. And I watch lots of girls. Many of them I'm friends with on Facebook. And it's interesting to see the choices in the path they take. And some of them go down one path just because their parents said, and I love parents, but make sure your why is rooted in that too. And I'm not saying let them don't do what they say, but make sure you have a why in that too, and that it's really deep for you. Or I see them go off and do what their boyfriend said. And they're not understanding why they're unhappy, because they're not making the choices that are right for them. So choose today to chart your course. Now, we have 2 quick other steps. My next question for you is, who wants $5? Who wants $5? Who wants $5? Who wants $5? It's yours. So, did somebody else raise their hand before her? Possibly. In your life, you're going to have lots of experiences where you have made decisions about what you want. But deciding is not enough. You have to be willing to act. It's about getting your rear up off the chair and making it happen. So when you look at your goals and you look at the experiences that you want to have in your life, don't make them wishes, make them actions. Figure out what you can do to achieve those. And like we said before, it's very simple. This equation will never let you down. Success equals vision plus action. So you've got to have the vision. You've got to know what that feels like. You've got to know what experiencing that goal is going to be like. How great does it feel to climb to the top of a mountain and know that you did something hard? How great does it feel to graduate with honors and know that you did something hard? But you've got to act on it, right? It can't just be the vision. So like I said before, you want to figure out your dailies, weeklies, and monthlies. What can you do every day, every week, and every month to help you achieve those goals? Success is not a destination, it's a practice, right? So in order for it to be a practice for you, you've got to put those practices in place on a regular basis. And I love this quote by Brendan Burchard that success is scheduled. Schedule those things into your day. Make studying important for you. If that's a goal for you, that you schedule that time and you don't let anything interrupt it, that you know that that's going to be treasured for you. The pit stop here is choose to make it happen. You are smart girls. with smart futures and smart ideas. And you can be, do, and have anything you want in your life, regardless of what people tell you. But the only difference between those who do and those who don't are those who choose to make it happen and continue to do it despite the challenges. So those challenges do come. And so this last section is just to make you aware of a couple of pitfalls that if you know now, right, as part of that roadmap, if you know where those roadblocks are going to be, you can know how to get around them. So there's two quick things I'm going to share with you here. Number one is I love the story of acres of diamonds. There's a farmer who was farming for his wealth, and he decided that he was going to make a whole bunch of money. And all of his friends started selling their property and moving out west to the gold rush in California. And he hemmed and hawed and thought, oh, that's going to be fleeting. I'm going to miss it. But all of his friends were leaving. And finally, at the very end, he decides he's going to sell his farm and go search for gold. And as you know, he was too late, and he didn't quite get there in time. And he'd sold his property, and he had nothing to go back to. One of his friends who kept their property, they connected via paper, and his friend had let him know that the people who had brought their property were digging for an advanced irrigation system. And they didn't find oil, as you might imagine. They found acres and acres of diamonds. So the man that had left to go find a gold rush had acres of diamonds in his backyard. And for a lot of us, we start to think about how the grass is greener on the other side. I'll be happier when I get out of high school. I'll be happier when I'm done with college. I'll be happier when that boy finally asks me out on a date. My friends, I'm here to tell you that the grass is not greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. Wherever you are, wherever you stand, make that work for you. Don't wish away everything that you have, but know that what you have right now is valuable and who you are is valuable. So we talked about my brush with the telephone booth, and the rest stop here is I choose to rise up. So make that choice whenever that comes, because failures will come, failures will happen, but you can ultimately get up and try again. And this is my last story. I was 7, but I remember as if it happened yesterday. I was playing in my room undetected, and it was well past my bedtime, but I was not about to go tell people, why don't you come put me to bed, Mom and Dad? So I just played in there quietly for a while. After a while, my mom came in, and instead of putting me to bed, she handed me a plastic bag and said, pack anything you can, we're leaving, and I don't know when we're coming back. Now, I was 7. I didn't quite understand what was going on, but I remember packing my underwear and some clothes and some 7-year-old treasures, like my Little Ponies and all the money to my name, which was probably about 50 cents. But just enough to hold the bag down to feel like it was substantial. And then we drove off and left my dad on the stairs crying. My parents, as you can imagine, ultimately divorced. But in that instant, being a 7-year-old, I didn't turn to my mother and say, could I have a different bag? After all, my grandfather was a travel agent, and we had Pan Am overnight bags in abundance in our house. But in the midst of my own mother's trial, she was just thinking, get it done. Now imagine if you and I were to sit down one-on-one. You probably have a great story, and my guess is it even trumps mine. The things that are going on in the walls of your own home and in the walls of your school and in your neighborhoods around you are nothing but tragic, and I know that. But if you get nothing else from today, I want you to know that your success lies in not living among that, but rising above it. And that you ultimately decide. This is what I call the plastic bag principle, right? We're all dealt our own little bag, and it may not be exactly what we want. Maybe we wish we had better clothes like that girl over there, or better parents like that girl over there, or better teachers like that girl right there. And all of those things would be better if, right? So my quest for you is to take your bag, embrace it, and enjoy it. I love this quote by Sam Bracken that says, pack your bag with hopes and dreams instead of fear and insecurity. So you have that choice too, that if you're going to put in that bag your future, or if you're going to carry around your past forever. Life's way too short to be sad. So my last bit of advice for you is to choose to be happy, regardless of your circumstances, regardless of the pitfalls that come and the times that you fall flat on your face. Make that choice that your life is good enough and that your future is brighter than your past. Ultimately, you'll hear lots of speeches in your life. You'll hear lots of speeches today, and I know there's lots of little nuggets for you to think about in your life. But if nothing else, I hope you sift through it all and ultimately decide that you can make it happen. Thanks.